And shalom, shalom. So, welcome to Oklahoma City King James Bible University. Then I'm Deacon Micah, and today then we're moving forth with our Precept Written Communication Academy. So, this particular topic, it's going to be diverse seeds, and just overall, then the mission, it remains the same. So the whole purpose why we do all of these written communication academies is to teach you all how to use the Preceptor and also the written communication tool, or then if you have just a pencil and pen, that as well, on how to run through the King James 1611 and be able to pull the precepts and understand God's doctrine according to the way that he commanded it. And also, when that time does arise, when, you know, this knowledge is not freely and readily available, then you'll be able to go through the Bible and get that knowledge for yourself. So that's overall the mission with Precept Written Communication class, is just to teach us all how to run precepts, because, you know, as I run those 3 precepts, introductory ones, to show us that we're not Moses. The Most High spoke to Moses face to face. The rest of us, and we're going to learn doctrine according to precepts. So before we get started, and we're going to start with those precepts. So we're getting ready to pull up Bible, and then we'll go over to the King James Version online. And the first precept that we're going to look at is Exodus chapter 33, verse 11. So, and the Lord spoke unto Moses face to face, as a man speaketh unto his friend. And he turned again unto the camp, but his servant Joshua, the son of Nun, departed not out of the tabernacle. So, the key that we need to look at is this first part of this verse, this first sentence. The Lord spoke to Moses face to face. Didn't say anything about us. So, in order to tie this in with more precepts, next one we're going to use is second one, like always. It'll be Deuteronomy Chapter 34, verse 10. So getting ready to go there. So Deuteronomy Chapter 34 and 10. And Deuteronomy 34 and 10 reads, And there arose not a prophet since in Israel like unto Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face. So then this is just building on what Exodus 33 and 11 is letting us know about how the Spirit of God rose. And this is also a tell you about these prophets that are out here sowing the word. Most High, then he knew not another prophet face to face as he did Moses. So anybody that's out there laboring and teaching the word, they should be doing it according to precepts. And then the next one that we're going to look at is we got Matthew chapter 13, verse 34 and 35. So we're getting ready to park there. Then we'll go on ahead and get started. So Matthew 13, and we'll go to 34 and 35. All right. So all these things spoke Jesus unto the multitude in parables. So when you go back and flip the spiritually, all these things spoke Jesus, which is salvation. So we're looking at the spirit that's inside of that man, unto the multitudes in parables, which is talking about us. And without a parable spoke he not unto them, that it might be fulfilled, which was written by the prophet, saying, I will open my mouth in parables. So I will utter things which have been kept secret from the foundation of the world. So Most High, then he's letting us know that he's speaking to us in parables, and without a parable spoke he not unto them. So these foundational precepts, they're important to always keep in your mind when you're doing any sorts of Bible studies, and you just look at things spiritual so you can get the spiritual discernment of what these verses are saying. So now that we've already looked at our introductory precepts, and we're at the Preceptor now, and right at the top for the subject line right here where my mouse is at, then I'll highlight so everybody can see where I'm at. We have our verse there, which is Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 9. And it reads, so thou shalt not sow thy vineyard, which just is spiritual, with diverse seeds, lest the fruit, so the works of thy seed which thou hast sown, and the fruit of thy vineyard be defiled. So the Most High, then he's given instructions there, not to sow the vineyard with diverse seeds. So when I took this verse apart, then there's a couple of things that I highlighted so for me to hone in on. So right here, that vineyard, then I used the highlighter functionality in a precept to highlight that, looked at seeds, and then we looked at defiled. So using that right there in these rows above in the preceptor, first row is what, which that question is what is the seed? Second question that I looked up is what is the vineyard? Third is diverse. How does the Bible define diverse? Because when you're trying to figure out how a word to define, you don't use Google or any dictionary. In the Bible, then it's a dictionary itself. So we've got to figure out what diverse means, and then we have to understand what defiled means. So this is how we're going to tear down Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 9. So right at the bottom, then I have my boxes. So we're going to scroll all the way down and open up the first one, which is going to deal with the seed. So when we're looking at Deuteronomy 22 and 9, then it's a parable. So starting with Mark chapter 4, verse 14, and it reads, so the sower soweth the word. So when you're looking at that seed, then that's talking about the word of God. So when you go through the scriptures and you pull out the understanding of these parables, the householder for the vineyard, then that's Christ. The vineyard, then that's talking about us, and the labormen, the husbandmen, the people that are laboring in the field, and these are these pastors and these sowers, and they're sowing with the word. So let me go back before we look at seed. Actually, it'd be better if I just start with the vineyard first. So we're going to go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 5, verse 7, because it'd flow better if we just start with the vineyard first. All right. So we'll look at this right here. So Isaiah chapter 5, verse 7, and it reads, for the vineyard of Christ, so the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel. So we're the vineyard, and the men of Judah his pleasant plant. So he looked for judgment, so doctrines and teachings, but behold, oppression, for righteousness, but behold, a cry. So Isaiah 5 and 7, then it defines the vineyard, then it's the house of Israel. So this is talking about us when it's saying, thou shalt not sow thy vineyard with diverse seeds. And we looked at Mark chapter 4, verse 14. So the sower, the laborers that are working in the Most High's vineyard, they're sowing the word. And now moving from Mark 4 and 14 to 2nd Esdras 9 and 31. So for behold, remember, I sow my law. So that's what that seed is in you, and it shall bring forth fruit in you, and you shall be honored in it forever. And the Most High, then he's saying, behold, remember, because this is something that's been stated in Genesis, even in the Old Testament. So right below 2nd Esdras 9 and 31, we have Genesis 17 and 10. So this is my covenant which ye shall keep. So between me and you and thy seed after thee. So every man, child, so that's male or female among you, shall be circumcised, which that's talking about the circumcision that's made without hands. So that's that Christ, and that's resting in you. And then we have Luke 8 and 11. So now the parable is this. The seed is the word of God. So when we go back up to Deuteronomy 22 and 9, up here at the top of the preceptor, these seeds, it's just talking about doctrines. It's talking about laws. Then we're not supposed to be sowing the vineyard, which is us, with all of these contrary, diverse seeds. So let me pull this back up. And the reason with that is Most High, then he's already told us in Scripture that his word is good. Then it didn't endorse or say that about any other sorts of interpretations, any sorts of doctrines. And we're getting ready to look at that right now. So with the Bible, then I'm getting ready to pull up some precepts, and we're going to look at why then that's the way it is. So the first one we're going to go to is Genesis chapter 1, verse 11 and 12. So take us back here so we can look at what the Most High says about his word and his doctrine. So going to Genesis chapter 1 verse 11 and 12. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass, so the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed, so this doctrine of word, is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after his kind, and a tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw that it was good. So in his doctrine and his knowledge, then it's good. And the thing with the grass is it has a double meaning. So it can mean flesh, but also grass, and it also talks about knowledge as well. So to qualify that statement, and I'm going to bring some precepts. So we're going to go to Psalms 104 and 14. So that'll be the first precept that we'll look at, and then we'll come right back to Genesis chapter 1, verse 11 and 12, and read that again. So going to Psalms chapter 104 and verse 14. So let's take us there. So he causes the grass, so the knowledge, to grow for the cattle, and the herb for the service of man, that he may bring forth food, so this knowledge, out of the earth, which the earth, then it's talking about mankind. So this grass, then this is talking about knowledge, and the cattle, then this is talking about people, which if you want to see that, you just go to 2nd Esdras chapter 5 and read at verse 25 all the way down to 27. Then cattle, then it talks about a people, and spiritually the cattle, then it's on a field out there in the pastures, and it just eats the grass, and it's eating that knowledge. So next thing that we're going to look at is going to be Deuteronomy chapter 11 verse 15, which that'll be the next precept. Deuteronomy 11 and 15. All right. And I will send grass in thy fields for thy cattle, that thou mayest eat, so that thou mayest learn and be full. So when you look at this and put the other definition on grass, and this is talking about knowledge. So when you go back to Genesis chapter 1, verse 11 and 12, and you read it again with that understanding, and God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit, so works after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth, and it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after his kind, and a tree yielding fruit, so these good works, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw that it was good. So his word, then it's good by itself. Then you don't need to go and pair up other sorts of doctrines, any sorts of teachings to his word, because then it's pure when it stands alone and it's undefiled. So to go with verse 12, then we're going to also look at Proverbs chapter 4, verse 2, and see what he also says about his doctrine. So go on to book of Proverbs 5, so chapter 4, verse 2. And we're going to look at this right here. Let me bring this down. For I give you good doctrine, forsake ye not my law. So then he's letting you know that his doctrine, it's good. For I give you good doctrine, forsake ye not my law. So nowhere in that verse is it saying anything about man's doctrines being good, which when you look at Isaiah chapter 29 and verse 14, which that just came to my head, it'll tell you what man's doctrine is. Then it's just a vain thing. So I believe it's either verse 13 or 14. Yep, so I got it. So Isaiah chapter 29, verse 13. So wherefore the Lord says, for as much as his people draw near me with their mouth and with their lips do honor me, but have removed their heart far from me, and their fear toward me is taught by the precepts of men. So in vain are you worshiping the Most High when you're looking at these precepts of men, because God's in his law, then it's good by itself. So going back up to the Preceptor, we're going to scroll back down and look at some more about this, looking at precepts. So now we're looking at Isaiah chapter 55, verse 8 and 11. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. So that's clear. Then his counsels and his knowledge, it's not ours, and it's higher than ours. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. For as the rain, so this knowledge cometh down, and the snow from heaven, and returneth not hither, but watereth the earth, so that's mankind, and maketh it bring forth in bud, that it may give seed to the sower, and bread to the eater, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. So it shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing thereunto that I sent it, which thing that's pleasing to the Most High is for us to present our body as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable. So going down more to look at this, so the fear of the Lord, so the desire of the Lord is the first step to be accepted of him, and wisdom obtaineth his love. So when we go back to verse 11 in Isaiah, then it's letting you know, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereof I sent it. So in the vineyard, with his seed, with his word, his doctrine is going to accomplish the thing that he sent it to, and it's going to prosper, because with that word, then we're going to grow, and we're going to present fruits in our basket that'll be presentable to the Lord on the day of our visitations when he comes to see us. So going back down to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 9, verse 11 through 14, we have some more to expound on this. So this is talking about wisdom. For she knoweth and understandeth all things, and she shall lead me soberly in my doings, and preserve me in her power, so her knowledge. So shall my works be acceptable. And when you look at this spiritually, these works, you can look at that as fruits as well. So I'm going to go ahead and take this, and I'll make that green, and we'll go ahead and bowl that, because that is spiritual. So we'll make this green. So shall my works, my fruits be acceptable, and then shall I judge thy people righteously, and be worthy to sit in my Father's seat. For what man is he that can know the counsel of God? And that's the whole point. You know, when these men are out here sowing theology and sowing, their understandings and their interpretations, they're doing it in vain. For what man is he that can know the counsel of God, or who can think what the will of the Lord is? For the thoughts of mortal men are miserable, and our devices are but uncertain. So when you're out there handling the word and you're teaching, then you sow the Most High's word by itself. And you don't add nothing to it, nor do you subtract anything to it, which that'll take us to Deuteronomy Chapter 4. Before then we look at diverse, and this one just hit me too. So we'll go to Deuteronomy Chapter 4, and we'll scroll down. All right, so you shall not add unto the word which I command you, neither shall you diminish aught from it, that ye may keep the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you. So you leave that word alone, then you just leave it the way that it is, and you don't add anything to it, nor do you subtract anything from it. Hold on. Then I'm in a teaching. Okay, so now moving forward, then we're getting ready to pull back up the Preceptor, and now we'll look at this diverse. So gonna get this out of the way. So going back up to the subject line, so thou shalt not sow thy vineyard with diverse seeds. So we're gonna look at next how this diverse functions, which now we're gonna pull up the next box, and it have this right here, and then we'll leave that first box up there. So if we just have to go back, so for diverse, then we're going to look at the book of Esther and just read some precepts and see how this diverse it functions. So starting with the book of Esther, chapter 3, verse 8 and 9, and then we're going to look at Esther 3 and 8 and 9. So, and Haman said unto King Azarias, there is a certain people, so this is talking about us, the certain people scattered abroad, and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom. And their laws are diverse from all the people, neither keep they the king's laws, so they differ. Therefore it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. So if it please the king, so this is the king's, one of his noblemen giving him some advice now, let it be written that they may be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those that have the king's charge of the business to bring it into the king's treasuries. So right here, then Haman, then he's letting King Azarias know that you have people that's rolling around in your provinces with their laws different from yours. And if it please the king, let it be written for their destruction. So he's got this letter written out that had these Israelites destroyed. So now in Esther chapter 3, verse 3 through 7, we're going to look at some more details about the letter, and we'll see how this diverse and it functions. So in Esther chapter 3, 13, verse 3 through 7, which this is in the Apocrypha, we're going to look at it. So now when I asked my counselors, so what we're looking at is the king's letter, so King Azarias. So now when I asked my counselors how this might be brought to pass, so Aman, that excelled in wisdom among us and was approved for his constant goodwill and steadfast fidelity, and had the honor of the second place in the kingdom, declared unto us that in all nations throughout the world there was scattered a certain malicious people that had laws contrary to all nations, and continuously despised the commandments of kings. So that's your diverse, and that's what that means. And it's contrary, then it's differing from another. So as the uniting of our kingdoms honorably intended by us cannot go forth. So king, then he's making it known in this letter that these people that have these laws contrary to us, and it's stopping the progression and the moving forward of our kingdom. So looking at verse 5, seeing then we understand that this people alone is continuously in opposition unto all men, differing in a strange manner of their laws, and evil affected to our state, working all the mischief they can that our kingdom may not be firmly established. Therefore have we commanded that all they that are signified in writing unto you by Aman, so this is the God that's second in command, who is ordained over the affairs and is next unto us, shall all with their wives and children be utterly destroyed by the sword of their enemies. So without all mercy and pity, the 14th day of the 12th month Adar of this present year, that they who of old and now also are malicious may in one day with violence go into the grave, and so even ever hereafter cause our affairs now to be settled and without trouble. So we know now what this diverse is talking about. So it's differing in a strain, it's differing, then it's in opposition to something else. So when we go back and look at that diverse seeds, it's letting you know that these other seeds, these other doctrines, you don't sow the vineyard, which is us, with these contrary opposing doctrines, and you only use the doctrine of the Lord. And another thing that we've learned from reading Esther, now that we're looking at this verse, is 13 and 3 through 7, don't ever think that these nations don't know who we are. Because, and they surely do, and they understand how our covenant works, that when we do the things that are pleasing to the Most High, then we're going to be riding on high. And when we're not doing the things that are pleasing to the Most High, we're going to have problems. And in order to keep their fleshly kingdom that they have going on, it depends on keeping us down. So the thing that we're going to look at is, now that, I want to just go there and touch up on that, is it's going to be Deuteronomy chapter 28 and 13. So we're going to go to the book of Deuteronomy and look at verse 28 and 13, which this right here, verse 13, it's one of the pronouncements for the blessings. So, and the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail, which is where we are right now. And thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath, if that thou hearken unto the commandments of the Lord thy God, which I command thee this day, to observe and to do them. So you hearken, you listen, and you do. So these other nations, especially the heads that know who we are, this is a threat to them. Verse 13, when we're hearkening and keeping the Most High's commandments, because it's going to result in a shift of status where we won't be the tail no more and be the head. So we're going to look at this some more with the Apocrypha, and we'll go to the prayer of Isaiah, and we're going to go to chapter 1, verse 13. So everybody will be aware of this right here. So prayer of Isaiah 1 and 13. For we, O Lord, are become less than any nation, and be kept under this day in all the world because of our sins. Like, this is why we have the status that we have today. And in order for us to eventually flip this around and to have some sort of a success, some peace, some safety, some prosperity, some elevation, it all starts with pitting off these sins. So stopping the iniquity, stopping the transgressions and the forgetfulness. And if we start to do this, these other nations that know who we are, this is a threat to them, because what they have, then it would start to crumble away as soon as we started as a nation getting together and cleaving unto our covenant and doing what's required. So if you go back and read Esther chapter 13, just keep that in mind. And now that I think about it, then I have another precept that I want to show. So we're going to go to Judith Chapter 5. And this is one that Elder, one of his staples. So we'll look at that. So Judith Chapter 5, verse 18. So actually going to 17. So we'll start at 17. And whilst they sinned not before their God, they prospered, because the God that hateth iniquity was with them. So when we sin not, we prosper. But when they departed from the way which he appointed them, they were destroyed in many battles, very sore, which you can look at that the way that we are right now. We're scattered, and have no sort of economic power, no political power, no social power, no sort of financial power. And were led captives into a land that was not theirs, and the temple of their God was cast to the ground, which that's us. We are the temple of the Spirit of God. Just look at 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 16 and 17. So, in the temple of their God was cast to the ground, and their cities were taken by their enemies. And all of this right here, then our low status, it's all because of the way that we're handling the covenant. So, just to get back on the teaching at hand, we were looking at how this word diverse, it functions. So it's differing from something else, then it's in opposition to another. So before we move forward, then I'm going to direct this question towards the comment section. Does everybody understand how diverse works? Just that word. Looking at the two precepts that we looked at Esther, and while y'all are typing in, and I'll write this in a additional remarks line of the Preceptor. So diverse equals contrary to another. And then we'll put differing from another. All right, so that's diverse. So thou shalt not sow thy vineyard, which we looked at Isaiah chapter 5, verse 7. It's talking about us with diverse seeds. So don't use these diverse doctrines and you throw that crap in the garbage. Then you don't do it. Lest the fruit of thy seed which thou hast sown and the fruit of thy vineyard be defiled. So, before we move forward, then I'm going to pull up Google and we'll look at some examples of some diverse seeds. So we're going to go over here. And the first one that we'll look at, let me see, of Enoch. So that's a diverse seed. That nowhere is it in the book of the Lord. So let's look at another diverse seed. That's another example of a diverse seed right there. Nowhere is that in your King James 1611, but that book exists today. And unfortunately, then you have people that take these books and they teach Israel out of this stuff. And what's that other one? I think it's Jubilees. Here it is right here. So this is another example of a diverse seed. right there. And just anything that's contrary to sound doctrine where you're using it to try and edify us spiritually, that's not in your King James 1611, that's a diverse seed. So now that we're in Google, we'll go back to the King James Version online, and we'll go to Isaiah chapter 34, verse 16, which just hit me. And this is one of Elder Jenkins' staples in his Sabbath class, which he does a good job there. And if anybody's not in that class and wants to get in there, just let me know, send me an email, and I'll get you taken care of. But this is Isaiah 34 and 16. So seek ye out the book of the Lord and read. No one of these shall fail, so none shall want her mate. For my mouth it has commanded, and his spirit it has gathered them. So everything that you need to know, then it's inside of this book of the Lord. So you don't go hunting and looking at other doctrines that are outside of this 1611, which now we'll also look at Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 12. And Miss Clark, then I see you, then I'm going to get to you in a minute. So we're going to look at 12 and 12. So, and further, by these, my son, so be admonished. So be corrected of this. Don't make this mistake of making many books. There is no end. And much study is a weariness. Then that's what it is. It's nothing profitable. And much study is a weariness of the flesh. And you don't go looking at all of these other books. And now that I think about it, there's something that we need to look at in Matthew, which Elder Johnson and he had ran his precept earlier today. So we're going to look at Matthew chapter 11 and verse 29. So Matthew 11 and 29. So take my yoke upon you. So you take the Spirit of Christ upon you, and you learn of me, which nobody else is accompanied there. You just learn of Christ by itself. For I am meek and lowly in heart, and you shall find rest unto your souls. So you just eat and learn of that one doctrine by itself. Then you don't go looking at all of these diverse seeds that are out there. So now that we understand how diverse works, we're going to pull up the next box where we'll start looking at some precepts that are also running with this Deuteronomy 22 and 9. So we got the diverse taken care of, and we're going to scroll up right here, and we'll look at the verse again. So we're going to bring this down and look at Deuteronomy 22 and 9, so where my mouse is at. So thou shalt not sow thy vineyard. So I'm just reading this again so we can have this fresh in our heads again. So thou shalt not sow thy vineyard with diverse seeds, lest the fruit of thy seed which thou hast sown, so these other doctrines that you plan to sow, in the fruit of thy vineyard be defiled. So when you take these other diverse seeds, these other diverse doctrines, all you're doing with those is you're defiling the people that you're teaching that stuff to. So, you be admonished of that. You don't do it. So let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 16 and 17. So, know ye not that you are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? So if any man defile the temple of God, so him shall God destroy. For the temple of God is holy, which temple ye are. So you're defiling these people, whether, it's intentional or by accident, you're defiling whoever that is that you're preaching those diverse doctrines to, and you will be held accountable for it. So you be corrected of that. You just seek the book of the Lord out, and you don't go pairing it up, mating it up with nothing else. And then we have Hebrews 13 and 9, which this should be like the catcher right here. So be not carried about with diverse and strange doctrines. For it is a good thing that the heart be established with grace, not with meats. So these meats spiritually, that's talking about these other doctrines, which have not profited them that have been occupied therein. So you don't get carried away with these diverse and strange doctrines. And when you look at the second part of this verse of 13 and 9, where it's saying, for it is a good thing that the heart be established with grace. When you look over at John chapter 1, verse 17, it tells you that grace and truth, and it came from Jesus Christ, which is salvation, the anointed. So we're going to look at that since, I brought it up. So we're going to go back to the Bible and we'll look at John chapter 1, verse 17. So, for the law was given by Moses, which we know when we go back over to Galatians chapter 3, verse 24, the law was just our schoolmaster to get us to Christ. But after we've been brought forth to Christ, we're no longer under the schoolmaster. So, for the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by salvation, the anointed, which we're looking at that spirit. So, when you go back to Hebrews 13:9, for it is a good thing that the heart be established with grace, which that comes from salvation, the anointed. Grace and truth, they come hand in hand. Not with meats, these other doctrines, which have not profited them that have been occupied therein. So you go back and you look at that Matthew 11 and 29. You take my yoke upon you and learn of me. Then it's the only doctrine that you need if you're going to be out there sowing a word. And then we have Sirach, which he weighs in on this some more. So we have Sirach chapter 37, verse 27 through 30. For all things are not profitable for all men. That's the whole point. Just what Hebrews 13:9 was saying at the other part of the semicolon. So not with meats these other doctrines, which have not profited them that have been occupied therein. So going back to Sirach, for all things are not profitable for all men, neither has every soul pleasure in everything, which I have to correct this. This is 28 through 30, not 27. Sorry about that. So, for all things are not profitable for all men, neither has every soul pleasure in everything. So, be not unsatiable in any dainty thing, which dainty, then it's just talking about deceitful knowledge, nor too greedy upon meats. So for excessive meats, these diverse seeds, these other doctrines, bringeth sickness, and surfeiting will turn unto choler, so madness, craziness. By surfeiting have many perished, but he that taketh heed prolongeth his life. So you don't be greedy upon these excessive meats, then you leave them where they are, then you don't take those in. You're going to make yourself sick. And we have 2 Esdras 7 and 20, which it expounds on Sirach, so I'm going to write that 7 and 20 in, because that's what verse it is. So 2 Esdras 7 and 20, for there be many that perish in this life, and this is why, because they despise the law of God that is set before them. So he already set a doctrine before us, and instead, this is what we tend to do as a house. Then we want to get greedy upon these other doctrines that are out here, and can't speak for any of the people that are tuning in with me today, but from time to time when I'm talking to people physically, this is one of the common things that I run to, just people holding on to other doctrines and other people that are teaching and they're holding on to these other belief systems as well. So alongside the book of Enoch and Yasher and Jubilees, they're also teaching out of that Sefer Bible and all of these other things out here that are diverse seeds. So let's scroll down some more. So Malachi 1 and 8. And if ye offer the blind for a sacrifice, so the blind, and that's somebody that can't see the truth, is it not evil? And if you offer the lame and sick, which we're going to highlight sick, and we'll underline it, which we had just seen that up here with verse 30 of Sirach, for excess of meats bringeth sickness. So just getting caught up with all of these other doctrines, and surfeiting will turn into choler. So let's go back to Malachi 1 and 8. So, and if ye offer the blind for sacrifice, is it not evil? And if you offer the lame and sick, is it not evil? The answer to that is yes. Offer it now unto thy governor. Will he be pleased with thee, or accept thy person, saith the Lord of hosts? And to find answers to these two questions that the Most High is asking about offering the blind or the lame and sick, all we have to do is just go back to the law. So we're going to look at Leviticus chapter 22, verse 20 and 21. So, but whatsoever has a blemish, so an imperfection, and this is spiritually, so this is talking about on your spirit, that shall ye not offer, for it shall not be acceptable for you. And whosoever offereth a sacrifice, which is your body, a peace offering, so you're giving your body holy and acceptable and filled and increased with his knowledge. And whosoever offereth a sacrifice of peace offerings unto the Lord to accomplish his vow, or a freewill offerings in beeves or sheep, it shall be perfect to be accepted. There shall be no blemish therein. So to go back to Malachi 1 and 8, if you offer the lame and sick, is it not evil? It sure is, because he's telling you not to offer these things. If you're going to give the Most High then an offering, it needs to be perfect. So let's go down some more. So we have Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 13. So thou shalt be perfect with the Lord thy God, which when you go to Psalms chapter 19, which since I'm getting ready to go there, then I'd just be better to show it. So it'd be better to show it than to just reference it. So Psalms chapter 19, and we'll switch to the standard KJV. And this is the verse that we're looking for. So Psalms chapter 19, verse 7. The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. So it's telling you what's perfection, what's perfect to the Most High. Then it's his law. So going back here, thou shalt be perfect with the Lord thy God. So if you have his doctrine and only his doctrine in your temple, that's what's perfect, and that's what converts the soul. We already seen in Sirach that these other excess of meats, they only bring sickness and choler. And now we'll look at 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 13. So meats, these other doctrines, for the belly, and the belly for meats. But God shall destroy both it and them. And this is why. So now the body is not for fornication, which that's spiritual fornication, just flirting around with these other doctrines. So the body is not made for fornication, but for the Lord, the Creator, and the Lord for the body. So this message, and it's not only for me, then it's for anybody that's out there speaking with family and speaking with friends, or just sharing the truth. Make sure that when you're sharing the truth, then it's only precepts only. Then you don't go going outside the Bible. Then you don't go looking at other books. Then you don't look at any Christian doctrine. You don't look at no camp doctrine. You don't look at anything else but the 1611 itself, because that Bible, then it's its own law book, then it's its own dictionary, its own commentary, and it's its own history book too. And everything that you need, all of the meat is in that book by itself. So with that being said, in this teaching, and just gonna keep this one short, before I head on out, does everybody understand Deuteronomy chapter 22 verse 9? Just if yes, just let me know. If anybody needs to go on Zoom, to talk about it or whatnot, just let me know, and we could open up a Zoom meeting as well. So I'm just gonna give that comment section some time. All right, so that's Sister Valeria, then she, yes. Got Sister Thomas, so she understands. Okay, got Shirley, and we have David Martin. Okay, so that being said, then I'm still just monitoring the timeline. So next week, Deacon Smith, so Sister Clark wants to go on Zoom. Okay, all right, so we going ahead and pull up Zoom. So we're going to get ready to create a Zoom class. Zoom. All right. And, I'm going to post a link in outline. So did anybody, that wants to come in, they're more than welcome. So we're going to open up Zoom. All right. So we're going to host a meeting with video off and open this up. So we computer audio. All right, so let me find the options. Is it somewhere here? Where is it? Here it is. Well, I was sitting right in front of me. So copy URL. Then we'll go back over here and we'll post it. And okay, so we have the Zoom link. So that being said, then this is going to wrap up the teaching. And if you want to come in the Zoom class, just feel free to do so. And with that being said, thanks for tuning in for Oklahoma City King James Bible University. Then I'm Deacon Micah. And until next time, peace.